Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Orphan Last, aka Skylar Madison, and today I'm going to go ahead and work on a commission. And yeah, while I was working on the initial sketch for this image, I was really unhappy with it, and I almost scrapped the entire image. I wound up actually deleting all of the footage of the initial sketching process, but throughout the course of this video, you do see me actually doing a lot of sketching, especially here at the beginning stages, because I was needing to rework the image. And some of that reworking phase actually carried on to the very end. There came a point where I was starting to put the lighting into the scene, and I found there were a few problems with the vehicle that you see me kind of illustrating right here, right now on the screen. Anyhow, you know, the specific commission is associated with a Creative Commons intellectual property called Dauntless. It's a crowd-sourced sort of intellectual property, and now I could be wrong about this, but it seems like I just kind of skimmed over some of their world building materials. I didn't really delve too deep into it, and I could be wrong about this, but I get the impression that this is kind of like a role-playing game that they've constructed, and I think that the magazine that this commission will appear in, it's basically a campaign that you can play for this role-playing game, and that's cool. I like that. And I get the satisfaction of knowing that you know, I have my work published inside of a magazine. That's awesome. Anyhow, and the clients are extremely ecstatic and excited about the image now that they've seen the final product. It needed to be black and white, and that's exactly what I wound up delivering, kind of a grayscale painting sort of thing. And yeah, before I delve too much into this, I just kind of want to say, if you find yourself watching my content on a semi-regular basis, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you'd like to support my channel, then feel free to click on the link in the video description below that leads to my Teespring, and feel free to purchase a t-shirt if you so please, and if you'd like to support my content. Anyhow, speaking of which, you know, dealing with the video description, I asked the clients for social media links that have to do with Dauntless, and I don't believe I've received them yet. So as soon as I do, then awesome. The links that they might provide, which will as soon as I get them, be in the video description below. I believe they'll lead to something like Kickstarter or something like that, and you guys can take a look at what this whole project is. It seems pretty cool, the conversations that I've had with the clients, and the sorts of things that I like and the things that they seem to like seems to be pretty much in line with one another. And yeah, you can see me kind of sketching out these 3D models and stuff like that that come with Clip Studio Paint. And although I really like the 3D models here, there's you know, they posed a couple of problems. Specifically, I decided to do a 4-point cylindrical perspective, you know, kind of a curvilinear perspective sort of image. It's the same sort of panoramic image that you would normally get from your cell phone, but your cell phone restricts you to only taking the photo horizontally, the panoramic image horizontally. And so I kind of tilted that panoramic basically 90 degrees so that it's panning down and up. And I thought that would create kind of a really dynamic image. That's something that they stressed that they really wanted. They wanted just a mesmerizing, like, sort of scenic view of this environment and such. They wanted soldiers landing on a dock. They wanted a boat. There weren't any real specifications on what they really wanted with the boat, just as long as it's a boat next to the dock. And they gave me a location, and so I wound up going on to Google Images and hunting down, images of that specific city and such like that, and just kind of I grabbed the reference image, said I want the camera to be located on this particular dock, pointed this direction. And the thing is, this was actually a very, very agreeable client. It just seemed like every time that I would come up with an idea or something, they would be all for it, and that was really pleasing. You can see me kind of experimenting with things like cross-hatching and stuff like that, and occasionally I'll kind of scrap that whole concept, that whole idea, and it's okay to just kind of experiment with the image. Right now I'm just inking the background and just moving right along. There was a lot of greenery, plants and stuff like that. It was a kind of a cool background. Some of it I knew ahead of time this stuff would be covered up to some extent, but it doesn't really matter, just as long as the background is there. I don't have to worry about working around the characters later on down the road and all that. So I just I would much prefer just getting the entire background done. Now, with the perspective that I use, since I tilted the curvilinear perspective, four-point cylindrical perspective 90 degrees, so that you're panning your head up and down, I made a couple other decisions that were kind of weird, that created some jankiness to the perspective. And so, although there is some formal stuff being done with the perspective, some of it is pretty informal, and it's just more impressionistic than anything. And there are a lot of artists that do exactly that. They just do a lot of impressionism, and most of the detail in the background is so far away that it's okay that it's all kind of just kind of impressionistically drawn really quickly and such like that, and all that good stuff. You can see how I drew the water. Basically what I do is I create these weird little wavy islands on what I consider to be a flat plane. And these little wavy islands, when you fill them up with black, what happens is it just kind of creates the illusion that you're looking at water. And then I wind up adding highlights later on down the road. Here you can see me. I actually spent a little bit of time creating this water here to the left. And then I wound up actually zooming out after having worked on it for a good long while. And the waves on the right side of the image were kind of moving in a particular direction, and it wound up kind of feeling as though somehow the current to the water has changed from the left side to the right side of the image. And that didn't really make much sense, so I wound up actually redrawing quite a bit of the water on the left side of the image. If the wine is bad, just throw it out. That's basically the philosophy that you have to hold. And even still, it's all good. And I decided to just get paid some flat rate rather than hourly or something like that for this project. So it's not like this wound up me having to redo work or anything like that. The client didn't have to spend more money on anything like that. I'm fairly new to working on commissions with my artwork, and so I kind of figure that I'm going to be making a few mistakes here and there, and so passing those mistakes on over to the client and having them pay for those mistakes seems unreasonable to me. So I just let it be. Now this intellectual property, Dauntless, it is set in the near future. And so because of that, I just kind of thought, well, okay, well, the guns, they're going to be fairly similar to, real life guns that we use in the modern day. And so I kind of based the guns off of that. There are differences to each gun from the actual true to life equivalent of that. But I think there's nothing wrong with it. One of the problems that I had with the image initially was getting the characters holding the rifles properly, and I've drawn characters holding a rifle before with the Galaxy's Edge image that I drew out quite a while ago, pretty much at the beginning of 2020. And, that wound up working out just fine with the Galaxy's Edge image. However, the main problem with this image is that not all of the characters are going to be from a profile view. And so what wound up happening is I just wound up scouring Google Images for quite a while, and I wound up placing the reference image down and then putting the 3D model that comes with Clip Studio Paint right over the reference image, and just tried to pose it exactly the same as what was inside of the reference image, and using it as much as a template as possible, trying to get the exact same camera angle on the 3D model as I do in the reference image in order to kind of pose them. But even still, one of the soldiers wound up not really matching up with the reference image very well. When I wound up rotating him, he kind of... The intent was to have all of the soldiers look like they're aiming down their sights, and this soldier to the right, he's not. And even though that, it's not exactly what I was aiming for, he still looks like, he's battle ready. There's nothing necessarily that he's... maybe he's already cleared his little zone, and so he doesn't need to worry about being ready for combat at that particular moment. It seemed just fine the way it is, and I wound up actually changing up his pose a little bit after the fact, in that I wound up kind of selecting the upper half of his body and kind of tilting it and moving it down a little bit. And some of the reason for that is because it's a curvilinear perspective image, and the 3D models do not work with curvilinear perspective. They strictly work with linear perspective. And so, I needed to make a few little adjustments only to this particular character, though, because of the curvilinear perspective. And I'm not really exactly quite sure why that's the case. And I wound up committing myself to doing quite a bit of cross-hatching to this image, and that wound up taking quite a bit of time. But, I would rather have a damn good-looking image and a really happy client than just, popping out garbage or something like that. So I just wound up cross-hatching. I don't know. I guess I could have just done all of the shading with the grayscale painting and all that. Generally I feel as though doing a grayscale painting 100% without any cross-hatching, for me it goes much quicker and it looks just about as good. But these particular clients, they do follow what I do on my channel, and they really liked the cross-hatching. I showed them a number of my images, and they got really excited about one particular image that just had a ridiculous amount of cross-hatching, and so I just decided to throw that in there. And like I said, the perspective is kind of informal, And so ellipses and such like that, they're just drawn out real quick, kind of the impression. Like if I'm looking at the character from this angle, I think that I would be able to see the barrel of the gun, the ellipse to the end of the barrel of the gun from about this much, I guess. And I think it still worked out pretty well without me doing like this overly excessive amount of measuring and such like that. Now, occasionally you'll see me actually, especially when I work on the guns, but sometimes on the character's clothing, as I'm doing the cross-hatching while I'm basically putting in the shadows to the image. You'll notice that I wind up selecting a number of the lines and changing their color. And I was able to do that because I'm using the vector layer that comes with Clip Studio Paint. And I usually don't do that. The cross-hatching itself is not the vector layer. Primarily because there's all these tools such as the pinch operation that you can do with the vector layers and such like that. If you have cross-hatching everywhere, if you need to pinch a line in order to just adjust it just a little bit or whatever, you're going to wind up moving like everything, all of the cross-hatching. You're going to be ruining all of your work. And so I just left basically the figure drawing of each image, each thing like the helmet and everything else on the vector layer. I don't think Clip Studio Paint can actually export as SVG, and I don't think it was ever intended to be like Affinity Designer or like Adobe Illustrator or anything like that. Especially since when you're working on a vector layer, when you zoom in, it's all pixelated. And that's fine. It doesn't need to look like a vector image. I think the fact that it looks like it's raster inside of Clip Studio Paint makes it so that you're able to draw with a vector layer just as smooth and seamlessly as you would with a raster layer. There's no lag whatsoever, and it's actually a very pleasant drawing experience. It feels exactly like working with a raster image when you're working with vectors inside of Clip Studio Paint. It's just that the vector layers, they offer different options, such as you're able to chop up a line, split it up, and select different parts of it, change different lines with their color and all that later on down the road without having to finagle with a bunch of gradient maps or something like that and a ton of different selections done with a lasso tool. You don't need to worry about any of that with the vector layer. And I'm really glad that I decided to use that vector layer, primarily because if I hadn't, I would have needed to redraw little things over and over and over and over again, and that would have been a real pain in the butt. And you can see me doing the cross-hatching on the characters as I'm moving along. I normally fully draw out characters 100% and then do the cross-hatching and all that, but I don't know. To some extent, when you have a sketch and you look at it and you're like, yeah, I'm actually really happy with this. This is going to work out just fine. At that point, everything just kind of feels like, at least for me, it feels like it's paint by numbers at that point. Only that I created the paint by numbers image, and so since I knew everything was on the canvas that needed to be there. And I already kind of felt like I already knew how everything was going to kind of come out at the end. Cross-hatching as I moved along just seemed totally natural. And at this point, I decided to kind of lay down the flats, at least for the characters in the scene. But then I remembered, there's other characters that I forgot, such as the guy who's rappelling from this vehicle that's kind of like a helicopter. The client decided to call it a wyvern. And this is something that I wound up needing to, like, this is kind of like a learning experience. I didn't expect to like get paid buco bucks from this particular project, but I still wanted to output the best work that I possibly could. And so basically I wound up doing some concept images for this particular client for this vehicle that's like the helicopter, the Wyvern. And I wound up drawing probably about 6 or 7 different versions of the vehicle, and yeah, it was fun. And that I at this point I don't necessarily depend on my artwork to survive, so it worked out pretty good. But it does kind of give me an idea as to what I should be keeping in mind for the future when I wind up doing commissions a lot more often, and when I'm feeling like I'm at the stage where I can do this more on the regular, and in order to pay bills and pay rent and stuff like that. In the future, I need to start asking, do you need concept image work, and include that in on the bid, or ask for more money down the road. Now, again, if the clients are listening, I want you guys to know I am totally satisfied with the deal that we agreed upon, and there's no disappointment whatsoever on my side of the aisle. I'm just explaining these are things that were educational for me as to what I should consider for the future. Now, these characters right here, they're off in the distance, and they take up such a small real estate on the canvas that I didn't feel as though they really needed some elaborate rendering. And at this point, you can actually see me zooming in and occasionally, and you can see like these giant pixels, basically. When a character starts to be just a few little pixels, it's really hard to think, oh yeah, I need to put in every last little detail in there, even though the software won't allow me to. And I think most people that have been working on commission work would agree with me. Generally, objects that are further off in the distance and really small, you don't put in a ton of detail. Kind of like the background, like I said, it's kind of impressionistically drawn. And at this point, the client said, hey, I want them to have cloth on the back of their helmets. So I wound up just kind of drawing something out real quick for the cloth, and I think that worked out just fine. The people inside of the helicopter, I didn't need to worry anything about that. And here you can see me starting to lay out the cross-hatching on the Wyvern. And, everything's working out pretty smoothly as I, on the bottom faces of the Wyvern, I decided, well, it should be pitch black, I feel, because the client wanted this to be a scene set at nighttime, and that's something that I haven't done much in the past, doing nighttime images, and so that's what I wanted to tackle. But right here, you can see me kind of struggling. Some of the decisions that I made, the geometry to the Wyvern didn't match what I constructed in the concept image. And so you can actually see the concept image that they approved of on the screen occasionally, and I'm using it as a reference. And right now I'm drawing in red the corrections that I needed in order to get the Wyvern to look correct. And I'm not like this is cool. I wound up getting it to look just right, and so that just makes me happy. And here, just finishing up the sketch work on the correction to the Wyvern, It's not like the problem with the geometry to the wyvern. It's not like one of those never-ending staircases. Occasionally that happens when you're drawing in perspective, and sometimes I actually really like it. The crazy jankiness that you can create with perspective, the weird optical illusions that you can create. But I didn't feel as though that was really all that necessary for this particular image, because it needed to look like real life. And so it's not like this image had anything like that, like the never-ending staircase. It was just, it didn't match. The left side didn't match the right side, and it didn't match the reference image. And there's a parallel ruler inside of Clip Studio Paint, and this is the first time that I wound up using it for cross-hatching, and that worked out pretty well, actually. And I think I might do it again in the future, although if I'm working in curvilinear perspective, I kind of wish that they have this curve ruler where you could make a custom curve. I wish that they had a parallel custom curve tool sort of thing, but yeah, currently Clip Studio Paint doesn't have anything like that, and Clip Studio Paint doesn't cater to anything that has to do with curvilinear perspective, and so that's a little disappointment right there. Especially, it's weird because the free software out there, Krita, is capable of working with curvilinear perspective in so many ways, and yet some of this commercial software out there is just completely incapable of working with curvilinear perspective. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I just, it'd be awesome if somehow Clip Studio Paint can not only provide you with curvilinear perspective tools, but also to get the 3D models for your figure drawing and such like that. If you could get those 3D models to conform to curvilinear perspective, that would be awesome. But currently it just doesn't exist, and so it's a little bit of disappointment there. And right now you can actually see me working on the grayscale painting process, and this actually went pretty quick. In general, when I'm working on a grayscale painting, it goes really, really fast. And what else did I do? Okay, right now I'm laying down the shadows, kind of a gradient sort of thing. Clip Studio Paint has a what is it? It's like an airbrush tool, and basically, if you're familiar with like Photoshop and such like that, it's like turning the hardness to your brush all the way down so that it's all feathered and such like that. That's basically what the airbrush tool does, and it's kind of interesting to have it designated as its own tool, because like you don't have to fiddle around with these tiny rinky-dinky sliders all the time, and all that good stuff. But anyhow, the final image is coming up on the screen right about now, and there is a lot of detail in this image, and I'm really happy with it. I think it came out really good, and the clients are happy, and I'm just glad that I didn't abandon this image. You can see the Milky Way out there. I think it came out really good. Oh, yeah, I'd like to do this again sometime. Anyways, guys, that pretty much concludes it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And if you guys would like to get more notifications from me, feel free to join my Discord. A link to my Discord is in the video description below. If you'd like to support this channel, there's an image in the upper right corner of the screen that leads to my Teespring. Feel free to purchase one of my t-shirts. Any support would be much appreciated. And if you've enjoyed this content and would like to see more, feel free to click on anything else that's appearing on the screen right now. Thank you very much for your time.